Hey, Henry! Great to have you on the show, man. How's your day going today?
So I'm out here getting my recovery done at the USCPI as I'm gonna be out for a minute. You can do me a favor and you can bend the knee to Triple C too.
Okay, great. Would you mind me asking you a couple questions about your past, maybe?
I start hearing these little birdies pew 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 pew.
Henry, are you okay, man?
And you can bend the knee to Triple C too.
Okay, I guess we won't be getting anything else out of you today. Wow, what an interview. Listen, I knew Henry was a bit much from the get-go, and I understand the whole king of cringe persona to get people interested in the sport. But geez, man, you couldn't even string one coherent sentence together for me throughout that entire interview? But I guess what they say is right. You can win all the fights in the octagon you want, but you can't win the most important fight of them all. Henry, you cannot win the fight against CTE, and clearly you're already losing 10-8. Anyways, this video, if you haven't guessed already, is going to be about Henry the Messenger Cejudo, a man who has won both the flyweight and bantamweight championships in the UFC and defended both, won 4 state wrestling championships in high school, has saved the flyweight division, has gone on one of the best streaks in UFC history. Oh, and won an Olympic gold medal at the age of 21? Seriously? Why doesn't he talk about that more? Huh. Anyways, the life of Henry Cejudo wasn't always filled with gold medals and gold belts, but instead, Henry faced extreme poverty from a very young age and used athletics as his escape. Henry Carlos Cejudo was born February 9th, 1987, to mother Nelly Rico and father George Cejudo in Los Angeles, California. The Cejudos always had a busy household growing up. With 5 older siblings and 1 younger, Henry was always getting beat up on around the house. Unfortunately, though, things weren't always this easy. At the age of only 5, Henry's mother was forced to flee to New Mexico for safety. You see, Henry's father was battling with drug and alcohol issues growing up and was putting his entire family at danger. He would later get deported for these same issues and would leave Nellie on her own in a foreign country to raise her entire family. Later on, Cejudo would even say that the family likely moved upwards of 50 times throughout their entire childhood until they finally arrived in a place in Arizona where they could call home. It would be here in Arizona where Henry would first begin wrestling. It was his brother Angel, a wrestler with a record of 150-0 and 4 state championships, would of course bring Henry underneath his belt. Taking him to all of his practices and tournaments, Henry was growing up around the sport of wrestling. He would soon follow suit and take a similar path to his brother through all the wrestling and tournaments and practices, but would actually smash, and I mean smash, clearly all of his brother's achievements. I mean, it takes a really special somebody to grow up with a brother of that caliber and become the best snake charmer in the family. Now that's special. No, seriously, Henry would only go on to win 4 state championships in wrestling, 2 in Arizona and 2 in Colorado because his family would later move there. Though funding these tournaments wasn't very easy. You see, Henry's coach would actually go door to door asking people for donations to fund these trips. In fact, it would only be once Henry became a part of the U.S. national wrestling team when he would finally sleep in a bed on his own. You know, because he was always bringing those baddies from the club home to his mom after a long night of drinking, right? No chance. Anyways, it was here at the U.S. Olympic national wrestling team where Henry would begin to make a name for himself on an international level. With gold medal victories at the 2006, 2007, and 2008 Pan American Championships, Triple C, and a 2007 Pan American Games gold medal, that Henry was ready to put the world on notice at the 2008, too many years I'm spitting out here, 2008 Beijing Olympics. Not sure why that slipped my mind, but whatever. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Give me a break, okay? Anyways, leading up to the games, Henry was seen as a huge underdog. You see, he had gone and placed just 31st in his senior lone championships. So most people had him going not very far at all in the Olympics. But you know what that sounded like? That sounds like doubt. And that's exactly what Henry loves to eat for dinner. He wanted to prove all those people wrong, and that's exactly what he did. With an absolutely amazing and historical run at the 2008 Olympics, Henry was able to get the gold medal that he so desperately wanted and so rarely talks about today, right? At the age of just 21, Henry was able to become the youngest wrestling gold medalist in the Olympics in USA history at the time, of course. And then many people go on to say that it would be after these Olympics that Henry would just retire and ride off into the sunset. But of course, that's actually not true. Henry would actually just take a long break for 3 years, only to come back at the next Olympics and to just lose really quickly and then retire. So get your facts straight, people. And just to go on a quick side note here, if you don't mind, that is, of course. Oh, you don't mind? Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, you didn't actually say anything and you're just watching this video and you didn't even open your mouth for half a second? Yeah, I kind of figured. Anyways, I just want to point out that gold medal we were just talking about, the one that Henry won and, rarely talks about, the one he takes to every appearance, every event, every press conference, even the one he goes and takes with him to take a shit. Yeah, that one. It's actually a replica. You see, Henry's real gold medal was lost in a fire when he was forced to jump out of a building, but he was forced to jump out of the second story only to realize that his gold medal was left behind. So the one that you see now, today in these appearances and press conferences, is a replica issued by the United States. And if you have a really keen eye, like I do, just kidding, I just saw this in an article online, he has 2 gold medals that he usually wears, with the second one being one given to him by a fan, of all things. Anyways, back to Henry retiring from wrestling. It would be at this point, actually, where he would begin to shift his focus onto boxing. His original goal was to become an Olympic-level boxer for the US. But after 4 years and many, and I mean many, humbling sparring sessions from real boxers who have trained from a very young age, Henry figured it just wasn't realistic. Which is when Henry Cejudo, Triple C, the king of cringe, the man himself, after 600 plus wrestling matches and a failed run at Olympic boxing gold, would make his switch to MMA. Henry would make his pro MMA debut in 2013 against Michael Poe in WFF MMA. He would go on to finish this fight via TKO in the very first round and do the exact same thing in his next 3 bouts. In fact, in just his second fight with the WFF, he would be fighting for the vacant bantamweight championship for the organization and actually win. Now, I'm not sure exactly how impressive that is, considering the fact that they print their fighters in black and white on their posters, so I'm going to lean on the not so impressive side, to be honest. But hey, a belt's a belt. And to be honest, I got mine off the homeless man down the road. So I can't say mine's much better than his, to be honest. Am I right? Anyways, after this, Henry would go on to get 2 back-to-back decision victories in Legacy FC, only to go on to the House of the Tomato, the UFC. Cejudo would not be wasting any time once he got into the UFC. In just an 11-month period, Cejudo would go from making his UFC debut to a 4-fight winning streak. This win streak actually included a victory over perennial UFC flyweight gatekeeper Jussier Formiga. However, after his victory over Formiga, Cejudo would taste or have the feeling of defeat for the first time in his MMA career. He would go up against Demetrius Johnson for the undisputed flyweight strap. Unfortunately for Henry, he would lose in the very first round via TKO in a pretty brutal fashion, to be honest. However, Demetrius is one of the best ever. And I say that because it's not like it was some bully from down the road or, some no-name local fighter, but instead he lost to one of the GOATs. And that's important because many people would have just taken this loss on the chin and rolled with the punch, and said, hey, it's one of the GOATs, nothing to be ashamed of, can't win them all, right? But Henry wasn't like anybody else. He took this loss personal and wanted to make the necessary adjustments to come back and win. So that's exactly what he did. Henry took it upon himself to switch his camps up completely. He would now be introduced and begin training with his now current head coach, Captain Eric. Although things were not really smooth sailing from there on out. He would go on to lose a split decision fight against Mr. Olivi and was kind of back at the drawing board. And he would stay there for about 10 months until his return against Wilson Reese. He would finish Wilson in the second round, which would actually mark the beginning of Henry's rise to greatness. In the following fight, he would fight Sergio Pettis and pick up a huge win, which would springboard him to a title fight against the GOAT, Demetrius Johnson. This fight would mark a huge test for Henry, as it would show if he really improved and the changes he made were really worth it. Now, the outcome of that fight is kind of debatable. Some people think he lost, some people think DJ won, some people think Henry won. It's kind of up in arms. But I personally think DJ won, but either way, this marks a streak of 4 fights like no other. With wins over TJ Jusashaw, Marlon Moraes, and Dominic Cruz, Henry went on a legend-killing spree like no other. Not even to mention that he saved the flyweight division by creating this whole king of cringe persona. I mean, he even himself said that Dana was going to close the division down. Which brings us to today, with the flyweight division still intact and a new fighter in the greatest of all time discussion. So, to recap super quickly, since this video is probably 10 hours fucking long, Henry is an exceptional athlete. With an Olympic gold medal and a champion of 2 divisions, he has definitely earned the title of Triple C. He came from a rough background, undoubtedly, but through hard work and dedication, he is the best representation of the American dream possible. Anyways, that's it for me. Adios. Woo! Yes!